So I don't really say this lightly, but it was honestly completely life changing for us and for our family. As a parent, you've got these kids that are not acting like all the rest of the kids, and you don't really know why they're different or how to help them. And joining kids work therapy just helps you as a parent learn how to interact with these kids that are not responding the way the parenting books tell you or your other parents tell you that their kids are responding. Um, I mean, I can remember on the first day when they first joined the group therapy, he was in a group for uh, behavioral challenges, and he joined this group of kids about his age, and just watching him with a bunch of other kids that are having a lot of the same behaviors. Uh, yeah, I mean, you just know you're in the right spot. So I started. Um, my older son is the one that really I knew he needed help. Didn't know how to help him, and I didn't really know how bad it was. Right? I always described him even when he was 2, when he was 3, when he was 4. He was my kid of big emotions. There was no middle ground. He was either the happiest little kid you've ever seen, had no emotion on his face whatsoever, or he was just this ball of rage. It just like a switch flicked from one to the other, never anything in between. And you could just tell like he's trying to interact with people, he's just missing it. He's just a little bit off from everybody else. And he's my first kid, so you just go like, oh well, he's just learning, right? Um, he didn't get to do traditional kindergarten. That was COVID. So we really started seeing and understanding the depth of it when he started in first grade. And his first grade teacher just did not know what to do with him. They just, I mean, she just called me up and basically said, like, he needs help. He needs serious help. And it took me a really long time to find anybody who would even work with somebody that young. I mean, he's 6 and 7. Like most of the therapists you call don't work with anybody under the age of 13. So I finally ended up having somebody mention occupational therapy for somebody who might have some sensory processing disorder. And to be honest, I just Googled it. I went on the internet and I just went kids pediatric occupational therapy, and there's this kids workplace, and they're like in town. So that was really where it started. Now my younger son is also in the program, not nearly as severe a case, I guess. He's got ADHD, so he went through when he started going through first grade and just not being able to sit in a chair like at all. Like teachers again didn't know what to do with him. And then it got so extreme that I had 3 phone calls from the school in the same day. The third one being eventually that I had to come pick him up and take him home. And I called Dr. Stephanie again and said, I need help. I need him in. I need him in now. So now we're round 2, second child going through the program. But yeah, those are my 2 kids. Very different. One sensory processing, virtually no control over his emotions, rarely had control over his body or his reactions. And then the other one, just super hyperactive, can't sit still. Both of them completely different needs. But yeah, they're both finding and have found help here. So occupational therapy is, you know, practical solutions and practical skills and practice for our kids who aren't learning the way everybody else is learning. So it's and me as a parent learning how to teach them all of these different skills that they're not learning the way everybody else is learning. Like just an example is, my kid was like in first grade, 7-year-old kid, and he's eating and he's got food all over his face. Every time he eats, food all over his face. And we pick that particular skill, and Dr. Stephanie brings a mirror, puts it in front of him, so he can see what he's doing, and almost immediately it fixes it. It not fixes it, but it changes. You can see him practicing. You can see him learning how to eat without making a mess, without smacking his lips in a odd way that's off-putting to others, right? But that's what it is. It's for each of these kids, what do they need to practice? What do they need to learn? And how do we get them to learn it with their specific sensory processing? I know what my kids would say their favorite activity is. Every time they got to do a swing or a jump or a leap, and I will say that does help them. You can definitely tell those that heavy work, that's what they call it, really helps them. But my favorite activity was whenever the parents got to do, like, we called it play acting. So the parents would act out a scenario that we want our kids to be able to understand better. And the first time we did this, I was doing it with a friend, one of the other moms in the therapy group, and we talked to each other, at each other, right? Because we weren't talking with each other. We were talking at each other about how our Thanksgiving went. And you know how it can go where, like, you're kind of having two different conversations with each other, and that's what we were intentionally having that conversation to kind of show our kids, like, you have to actually listen to what the person is saying so that you can actually respond. Otherwise, you're not actually having a conversation. And we just had a lot of fun with it and, like, really leaned into it. And at the end of it, we turned and we looked at our kids, and you could just see on their face they were just like, what is happening? Like, you could tell they could see it. Like, this is not the way a conversation is supposed to go. And just, like, seeing that look on these kids' faces is just priceless every time. I loved it. So the brush, what we call brushing and compressions, right, which is like the deep compressions. You get this brush and you brush the kids' top of the hair and you brush their arms. And I would joke with my mother when I first, sorry, I have to brush my kid. Hold on 1 minute, right? And then after that, you do compressions. And I did it to myself too, just to see, and it doesn't do anything for me. I don't know, but I'm going to tell you again, going back to that first session where you just saw like 4 or 5 different kids. They're all doing um, various forms of rocking, of fiddling, of fussing, of whatever they're doing, right? Or they're all over the place, right? And there's all these kids doing different various forms of I can't sit still. I'm not feeling calm. I'm not feeling good, right? And then all these parents, we all pull out our brushes and we all start calming and or we all start brushing, and they all melted. It was amazing. They all just, you could just see them all relax after they're done. And when you're done, by the time you're done with the brushing and compressions, they're like, all of a sudden they're like calm, they're centered, they're focused, or at least more than they were before. I mean, it wasn't always complete fix, but you could definitely see the difference. And you start out doing it 3 times a day, which is a lot. I haven't done it 3 times a day in a long time, but I do still pull it out anytime my kid is like, clearly you're anxious, you're nervous, you're just not feeling right, and I still pull it out sometimes to help them, like, recenter and calm down. Discipline's always a hard one for parents to talk about because you're like, am I doing it right? Is somebody going to judge me? So I'll just say, like, when I had my first kid, you always have your opinions about what discipline is supposed to look like, and you try all the things. And with the older one, all of the normal things, the timeout, the taking privileges away, the whatever it is, the, like, I'm really disappointed in you, right? All those things, it just didn't work, right? It didn't improve anything. It didn't change. He's just, if anything, it made it worse, right? And it's not until you come here that you realize, like, the reason it's not working is because they don't actually have control. They're not doing it on purpose. They really can't help it. And so all you're doing by disciplining them is causing anxiety and making it way worse. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't discipline my kid because that's obviously not true. Because sometimes they're still kids. They still do things on purpose, and they do need to be disciplined for it. But you start to recognize which behaviors warrant discipline and which behaviors warrant a completely different response, which is like we need to talk it out, or we need to calm our body, or we need to do deep breathing, or we need to be removed from the situation, whatever it is for your kid. But discipline looks a lot different now because the first thing I have to think to myself is one, which kid am I dealing with, right? Because my older kid has a lot less control over himself in a lot of different ways. My younger kid is super hyper, so if he's just being loud and obnoxious, neither one of them can help it. So discipline isn't really going to help. So the first thing you have to do is go like, what's the proper parent response, and then actually implement it. Like, does this actually warrant discipline? Does this actually warrant something else? And it's definitely not easy, but that's one of the things we kind of start to learn here is what can the kids help and what can't they help. I think I've said a lot of it already, but I think the biggest lesson learned coming here is you're just not going to figure it out. If you've got a kid who's differently wired, if he's got sensory processing, if he's got ADHD, if he's got autism, you as a parent just aren't going to figure it out because none of these kids are the same either. I mean, my oldest one has gone through several different group therapies in addition to doing the one-on-one. My younger went through a group therapy in addition to doing one-on-one. They're doing some of these, the more technical stuff, the integrated metronome stuff. But like they're all different, so you have to just try something, see if it works. Try that didn't work, so try this thing, and now see if that works, right? And you're just not going to be able to figure it out. These kids are different, and having the professional help is, I'll just say it again, it's life changing. And having other parents to talk to too that are going through the same thing, that are seeing a lot of the same things, even if it's not exactly the same, because no kid's the same, but our kids are different in a similar way. And being able to talk to them and bond with them because other parents they don't quite understand that when you tell them, my kid has a half an hour meltdown 3 times a week, regardless of what I do. They don't understand what that means. They're like, oh yeah, my kid has meltdowns. No, my kid really has meltdowns. Half an hour, 45 minutes, 3 days a week. And those are just the big ones because we're not even going to talk about all of the meltdowns. Yeah, you just can't do it on your own. And it makes a huge difference having professional help. I've talked a lot about what I've learned as a parent, and I guess that's because I'm the one talking. The kids learn a lot here too about how they work and what's going to work for them, and it's that's really what it is. It's a great learning environment for these kids who need something different than everybody else. And both of my kids have improved just a huge amount. I mean, some you might say like, well, they're getting older, so of course, yeah, I'm sure some of it is that they're getting older, right? You have a 6 year old or 5 year old, and now he's 7 or he's 9. But I can guarantee you that they would not be the same 7 or 9 year olds as they would have been if we didn't come through here. That you can see sometimes the immediate improvement in some of these areas. It's not like it solves a problem because they are who they are, but it helps them learn who they are. It helps you as a parent learn who they are, so that you can actually like have a normal life because you can understand what's going on and work towards normalcy, I guess.